Gun Guitars Luthier Lessons video series. Today we're going to talk about the fret seating call. There's instructions on the website, www.sixgunguitars.com. Under the article section, there's instructions on how to make these. This is very, very easy. I just used a piece of hardwood. In this case, it's Caul always, and found a piece that's just regular old 4/4 piece. It's about 4.5 inches long, maybe 3 to 4 inches long, right around there, and just a couple inches high. Gives you a little bit of, kind of girth when you're striking it with a hammer. And all you do with this thing is you can kind of see that the bottom here has a radius to it, and the top back here is flat. This radius matches the radius on the fretboard, and the reason for that is when you're seating the fret, it's nice to have this call be the exact same radius, so that way it sets the fret evenly. Most folks, when they do their fretting, they'll set it with a hammer. A hammer works great. You can tap in the ends and go across nice and easily, but if that hammer twists or turns or anything, or you wind up dinging the fretboard, now you've got a dent that you've either got to steam out or sand out, and it becomes a pain in the butt. This thing will make it nice and easy because every time you put it on there, it stays nice and even. When you hit it with the hammer, it distributes the force, so if it does move around a little bit, it's not going to mar your fretboard. So we'll get in a little closer here in a second and show you how it works. Bench here, we've got the Caul. I've got a little piece of fretboard here that was a cut off from another fretboard. I've got a piece of fret wire that I've already ran through my bending jig, so it already has a little bit of radius to it, and a set of cutters. So first step is to take the fret wire, line it up across the fret for how much we're going to need, and cut it off. And give it a little last test fit just to make sure that it's on there right. So I got it on there, it's got nice and even. We have a little bit of hangover on both sides, and that's going to be trimmed off again in the end. I don't like to cut too close to the fretboard when I'm using my side cutters, just because sometimes it has a habit of bending the tang one way or another, and what that winds up doing is making it difficult to seat. So first thing I'm going to do is take a hammer and just seat the ends. Now that gets everything nice and in there, so that way the ends are nice and stuck and the middle is still hanging up a little bit. So you take the radius Caul, put it over there, and go ahead and tap it home. Makes a lot of noise, but what it's going to do is it's going to set that fret perfectly up against the board there. So it's a uniform depth, it's in there right, it's not going to come out, and because of the radius block here, I don't even have to worry again about hitting it with the hammer and possibly missing it or moving it from side to side and dinging the fretboard. Now with the Caul, it's a good idea as you're tapping to kind of move it back and forth a little bit just to make sure everything gets seated properly, and then you have a nice evenly seated fret. So if this is a normal fretboard, I would take the next piece of wire, do the same thing, and just kind of keep repeating. I also like to put a little glue in here, but for demonstration purposes I didn't, just because again this is not going to be on a very big guitar. So taking the radius fret call that the instructions are for in the article section, really, really easy to make, and just a brief rundown. All you do is cut a little swath in here that matches the radius with the bandsaw, and the way that I did it was I took one of my radius sanding blocks and I butted it up to the other side and I drew my radius on here. I took the bandsaw and I cut out as much waste as I could that was just kind of getting me up to the line but not actually across the line. And then what I wanted to do was taking a piece of sandpaper and wrapping it around the fretboard piece that I had, which was the same radius that I was going for. Put your sanding block on here, put your Caul on here, and just go back and forth. Just go back and forth for a while to remove the excess of that waste and really smooth out the Caul. And what that's going to do is guarantee that you have an exact match on the Caul for the fret and fret wire that you're using. The other thing too, mark on here the radius. This is 16-inch radius. I even say fret setting Caul, obviously I know what that is, but 16-inch radius. If you have several of these around the shop, they're going to get confusing without being marked, especially if you made them out of the same matching set of wood, which would look really nice. So again, that is the fret setting Caul from sixgunguitars.com. Luthier series videos, and look forward to more in the future.